Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed how women often sacrifice so much for their families only to feel unseen and unappreciated? The truth is, too many women pour their hearts into caring for others, yet forget to care for themselves. Make no mistake, while devotion is noble, there's a fine line between selflessness and losing yourself in the process. So, I hope this story resonates with you because it carries a powerful lesson about strength, love, and the importance of finding balance in your own life. If you are not subscribed, I recommend subscribing and activating the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. If you like the topic of this video, please comment 1. If you don't, please comment 0 to let me know how I can improve and make better videos for you. Now, let's begin. In this life, people often say that our destiny is determined by heaven, that our fate is beyond our control, written in the stars before we even draw our first breath. But I've come to learn that while fate may begin as a story already written, it's our hearts, our choices, and our resilience that shape the endings. Life is not about waiting for destiny to unfold as we wish, but about changing the course of our journey with the wisdom of our hearts. One must never complain about the suffering that comes their way. Instead, we must learn to live in peace, find gratitude even in the smallest moments, and find that stillness within ourselves that brings true contentment. There's an ancient saying, those with a predestined bond will meet even from thousands of miles apart, but those without it will never meet. This reflects the idea that fate in its mysterious ways will bring people together if it's meant to be, and no matter how much we may desire otherwise, it will never happen if it's not. While on the surface, this may seem like just a saying about fate, its depth holds a powerful lesson about life. Life isn't about desperately seeking connections or clinging to what's not meant for us. Sometimes the hardest lesson is realizing that some things we want so desperately aren't written in our path for a reason. We must learn to appreciate what we have and find peace within ourselves rather than constantly searching for validation from others. There's a story from ancient times, one that continues to resonate deeply with me. It's about a woman named Tithi from the Tang dynasty. Born into a life of wealth and luxury, she was adored by her parents. Her world was full of privilege, and yet she couldn't escape the heavy hand of heartbreak and sorrow. Her first marriage was cut short by the untimely death of her young husband. Her second marriage, though seemingly promising, was marred by betrayal. Her second husband, entranced by other women, left her emotionally drained and brokenhearted. She had hoped that one day she would find a partner to depend on, but all she encountered was suffering. As the years passed, she came to understand one of life's hardest truths. Destiny cannot be forced, but happiness can be sought within. And so, in her old age, she made the courageous decision to live alone, focusing on helping other women who, like her, had faced a life of hardship. She came to realize that true happiness lies not in others, but in our ability to create it for ourselves. The wisdom of the ancients reminds us, Totha, truly be happy. We must learn to control our own lives and never depend on others. I too am over 70 now. My life has been a tapestry of joy, sorrow, lessons, and realizations. After having witnessed so many twists and turns in the lives of those I hold dear, I understand something that women who suffer often don't. Their suffering does not come from the unjust hand of fate, but from constantly searching for happiness in the wrong places. When I was younger, I had a sister named Lan, whom I adopted into my family. She was born into wealth, her life easy and free from the struggles most people face. She had loving parents who spoiled her, and money was never a concern. But as she grew older, life revealed its cruel nature. At 23, she married a man whom she believed would be her partner for life. But instead of love, she found neglect. Her husband was a man who lived for the pleasures of the world, gambling, drinking, and spending time with his friends, leaving Lan and their child behind. She held on for years, hoping that one day her sacrifices would make everything better. But as time went on, she learned an invaluable lesson. Relying on others to provide our happiness is like waiting for rain in a desert. It's a futile wish that will never bring satisfaction. Eventually, Lan left him and took her child, starting a new life. But deep inside, she still believed that she deserved a better life, one filled with love and care. Several years later, Lan remarried, thinking that maybe this time she'd found the right person. Her second husband was kind and attentive and seemed to care for their family, but once again, life had other plans. Lan, in her trust and vulnerability, handed over her money and assets, believing that she had found security. But one day she discovered that her husband was unfaithful, and the money she had saved was gone. Her heart shattered. In a moment, all she had built was taken from her. She came to me, overwhelmed with grief, asking, "Did I do something wrong? Was it my fault for choosing the wrong person?" As I looked at her, I felt the weight of her heartache, knowing how much she had given of herself, how much she had tried. But deep down, I knew that her biggest mistake wasn't that she had chosen the wrong partner. It was that she had been looking for happiness in all the wrong places. I gently took her hand and said, "People say that women suffer because of love, and men suffer because of money. Do you know why? Because women place their happiness in others' hands, while men search for power and wealth. You're not wrong for loving, but you are wrong for making someone else responsible for your happiness. Happiness isn't something you search for, it's something you create within yourself." When Lan heard this, she sat still, the weight of my words sinking in. She sat there in silence for a long while before tears began to flow. But these weren't the tears of defeat. They were the tears of awakening, of understanding the truth that had been eluding her for so long. From that day on, Lan changed. She no longer waited for anyone to come and save her. She picked herself up, rebuilt her life, and forged a career. She learned how to be strong in her own right, not for anyone else, but for herself. 10 years later, she was living a life that was stable, peaceful, and fulfilling. She no longer sought a man to bring her happiness because she had learned the invaluable lesson that happiness is something we must find within ourselves. One day, many years later, we sat together and Lan smiled. "Now I understand," she said. "Happiness isn't about having the perfect partner or the perfect house. It's about being in control of your own life. I may not be wealthy, but I am at peace. I don't have a man beside me, but I am not lonely. I've learned to love myself." Lan's story is one I hold dear, a lesson I want to share with you. Women born under the year of the pig, or anyone who faces hardship, do not suffer because fate is cruel. We suffer because we keep searching for happiness outside ourselves. The wisdom of the ancients echoes in my heart. When the heart is at peace, life is at peace. When the mind is calm, blessings come. Only when we stop chasing illusions and relying on others will true happiness find its way to us. I ask you now, have you ever gone through something like Lan? If so, know this. Life may be cruel at times, but how we face it is what truly determines our happiness. Let this story be a reminder to you. No one can bring you happiness except yourself. The ancients spoke of the strength and resilience of women, but sometimes being too strong can lead to isolation. We must learn when to be firm and when to soften, when to hold our ground, when to let go. Strength is important, but so is balance. As the saying goes, a tall tree catches the wind. If you are too rigid, too unyielding, you may find yourself alone. I'm over 70 now, and as I sit quietly reflecting on the many seasons of life I've witnessed, I can't help but feel a profound sense of understanding of how much fate can shape us. Life has a way of teaching you lessons you never asked for, but desperately needed. Today, I want to share the story of a woman I once knew, a woman who, like many of us, tried to balance strength and vulnerability in a world that constantly tests our hearts. I want to share with you a lesson learned the hard way. Being a strong woman is admirable, but life becomes unbearably difficult if you're too strong, too unyielding. When I was younger, there was a dear friend of mine named Tan, born in the year of the tiger. From the very beginning, people whispered that her fate would be different from others, more challenging, perhaps even harsher. They said she'd struggle to find happiness and a good marriage. At the time, I didn't believe it. I thought those old predictions were nothing but superstitions, but now, after all these years, I see how true those words can ring. Tan was always strong, perhaps too strong for her own. Her father passed away when she was young, and her mother raised 3 children on her own. Tan learned from an early age that independence was her only ally. She was determined to carve out her path and not rely on anyone. She was smart, decisive, and always excelled in whatever she set her mind to. In those days, girls were expected to finish their schooling and then marry, settle down, and start a family. But Tan, with her fierce determination, had different dreams. She wanted to build her career, to control her own life, to be the master of her destiny. While all of her friends had moved on to marriage, Tan was still focused on her career at 27, not because she didn't want a family, but because she wasn't willing to depend on anyone for her happiness. When Tan finally did fall in love, it was with someone she believed could be her life partner. She was sincere, loving, and loyal. But back then, men didn't always understand women like her. They didn't want a partner who could stand beside them. They wanted someone who would step back, someone they could lead. For all of Tan's success and independence, she was left fighting a battle that didn't need to be fought. The battle for a partner who could accept her as an equal. After years of struggling and sacrificing, she eventually married a man who worked in the same field. Everyone around her thought she had finally found happiness and that her strength would be rewarded with love. But that wasn't the case. Her husband could not accept her brilliance, her ambition, and their relationship was full of conflict. The fights, the misunderstandings, and the emotional toll they took on her led to a painful divorce. After the divorce, Tan threw herself even more into her work, focusing on building her career to fill the emptiness left behind. She became a successful, independent woman in her own right, but there was something inside of her that was missing, something no amount of success could replace. Years went by, and one day I met Tan again. She was still as strong, still as independent, but her eyes no longer held the same fire they once did. They were softer now, tinged with a quiet sadness. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. She said to me, "Now I understand. Being strong isn't wrong, but being too strong makes it hard to find a partner. A woman needs to know when to be firm and when to be soft. I used to think independence was everything, that I couldn't rely on anyone, but now I see I've pushed myself into loneliness. Strength is good, but without balance it can isolate you." And with that, the truth of her words hit me like a wave. Tan's story was a poignant reminder that while strength is important, there's a fine line between strength and rigidity. Too much of either and you risk losing yourself in the process. This reminds me of an old saying, too rigid and you break, too soft and you're weak. In life, we must find a balance between strength and gentleness. A woman who is born with a strong, independent character isn't wrong. None of us are wrong for wanting to stand tall and be our person. But if we don't learn when to soften and when to step back, life will test us in ways we never imagined. The key is to know when to stand firm and when to bend without breaking. Men build houses, but women build homes, they say. But in truth, women can also build their happiness. We can create the lives we want, but we must learn how to adjust ourselves, to love ourselves, and to know when to be strong and when to be gentle with our hearts. It's not about being weak or strong, it's about being whole, understanding ourselves, and knowing when to hold on and when to let go. If I could share one thing with you today, it would be this. Strength is a beautiful thing, but when it's unyielding, it can become a burden. Balance is the secret. Only by finding that balance between strength and tenderness, independence and connection, can we find peace and happiness. I hope this story resonates with you, as I've seen so many women walk this path. If you've experienced something similar, I encourage you to reflect on your own life. Don't let your strength isolate you from the love and connection you deserve. Share this with others so that more women can understand themselves better, so that they don't feel lonely on this journey of life. As women, especially those of us over 30, we are often not valued for how much we sacrifice for others. Instead, we are valued for whether or not we are respected, for how we carry ourselves in this world. We give so much for our husbands, for our children, for those we love. But what do we give ourselves? If we never learn to love ourselves, all the sacrifices in the world won't matter. There's an old saying that marriage is like a gamble. If you're lucky, you'll be loved. If not, you'll suffer. But is it always just fate that determines our happiness? Or have we forgotten our value in the process? As I sit here at the age of 70, looking back on the countless lives I have witnessed and the many stories that have unfolded before me, I can't help but feel a deep sense of reflection. Life, with all its twists and turns, offers us lessons in ways we never expected. Some lessons come through joy, others through pain, but they are always there, teaching us something valuable. One story that has stayed with me, one that I believe speaks volumes about the sacrifices women make and the sometimes painful consequences of selflessness, is about a woman named Lu. Lu lived during the Song dynasty, and her story is one of deep sacrifice and tragic realization. She was the wife of a government official, a woman who poured her entire heart into her family. Every day she worked tirelessly, making sure everything was in order. But despite her devotion, her husband took her for granted. To him, her duties as a wife and mother were simply what was expected. No gratitude, no acknowledgement. He believed that household responsibilities were solely the woman's domain, and so he never truly saw the depth of her sacrifices. She worked without complaint, always giving, always serving, always caring. But it wasn't until she fell ill that her husband finally noticed how much she had done for him. He realized too late, of course, that he had never really cared for the woman who had given so much of herself for their family. Lou passed away quietly, leaving behind a legacy of selfless love, but without ever hearing a single word of thanks from the one person who should have appreciated her the most. Lee's story is a stark reminder of a painful truth. Women should never feel guilty for the sacrifices they make, but if they don't reserve something for themselves, who will truly appreciate them when they're gone? This lesson resonates deeply with me, especially as I reflect on the life of another woman I knew, Lean. Lean was someone I met when I was younger. She was a kind, gentle soul with a heart full of love. When people looked at her, they saw a woman who was lucky, married to a man with a stable job, living in a comfortable home. But as is often the case, what appears to be luck on the surface hides deeper struggles beneath. Lean's husband, like Lou's, believed that a woman's role was solely to care for the home and family. Lean spent her days cooking, cleaning, and looking after her in-laws without ever complaining, but despite her sacrifices, she had no money of her own. All the finances were controlled by her husband, and while many believed she was fortunate because she didn't have to worry about earning a living, they didn't realize that this so-called luck robbed her of her freedom. One day I asked Lean, have you ever thought about doing something for yourself, earning your own money, or following a dream that's just for you? She smiled as if my question had never occurred to her. As long as my husband and children are happy, that's enough for me, she replied. But as the years passed, Lean's children grew up, found their own lives, and slowly they forgot the sacrifices their mother had made. Lean continued to live in the same old house, cooking meals and waiting for her husband, who became more and more consumed by his own life and his friends, neglecting the aging woman who had once been the heart of their home. One afternoon, I found Lean sitting alone on her porch, her gaze distant. I sat down beside her and asked her what she was thinking. She sighed deeply, and in a voice heavy with regret, she said, "I've spent my whole life taking care of my family, but now I realize that I have nothing left, not even a moment to live for myself." When I heard those words, my heart broke. The lively, hopeful woman I had once known had turned into a silent, lonely soul. A year later, Lean fell ill, and her children rushed back to be by her side. It was only then that her husband realized just how much she had meant to him, but by that time it was too late. Lean passed away quietly, without anger or bitterness. But I know, deep down, that she must have felt the sting of years of unnoticed sacrifice. After her funeral, I overheard one of her sons crying, saying, "Mom, I never told you I loved you. I always thought you'd be there." But by then, the woman who had given everything, who had lived for her family, would never hear those words. Lean's story is one I'll never forget. It serves as a powerful reminder that sacrificing for others is noble, but when we live our entire lives for others and forget ourselves, we may end up with nothing but regret. There's an old saying that resonates deeply with me. To love others, you must first love yourself. As wives, mothers, and caregivers, we pour our hearts into those we love, but we must not forget to take care of ourselves. The greatest tragedy would be to reach old age only to realize we've forgotten our well-being in the name of devotion to others. This story isn't just about Lean, it's about all of us who give and give until there's nothing left. It's a call to reflection. Have we forgotten ourselves for the sake of our families? Have we, like Lean, lost sight of who we are, of what we need, of what makes us feel whole? If you find yourself in Lean's shoes, please share your thoughts and let others learn from her story. Women should never have to feel lonely or forgotten. We deserve to feel valued, not just by others, but by ourselves. Life, as I've learned, is like crossing a river. Some people paddle gently, allowing the current to carry them forward, while others struggle against the waves, fighting every step of the way. The people born into hardship may not be cursed by fate. Rather, life is teaching them to be stronger. There's another saying that has always stayed with me: jade that isn't polished cannot become a precious stone. People who haven't faced adversity may never truly understand the depth of life's lessons. Take the story of Tan Huang, for example, a woman from the Ming Dynasty who faced more than her fair share of hardship. Orphaned at a young age and mistreated by her relatives, she didn't wallow in pity. Instead, she worked tirelessly to support herself. When she married, hoping for a better life, her husband's gambling addiction sank them into debt and she bore the burden alone. Despite all of this, she never gave up. Looking back on her life, she said, "Some people are born with a red carpet, others must clean their path. But that's okay, as long as we don't give up." Her words are a testament to the resilience that comes from hardship. As I think about these stories, the lessons they carry, I urge you to never forget that, while life may be difficult, it's the choices we make that define us. Find balance in your life. Take care of yourself. Love yourself, so that when the time comes, you won't look back with regret, but with a smile. This story is a profound lesson for women who are born into hardship. For many, the struggles of life seem endless, and the only choice is to stay strong, to push forward, and to find the strength to keep going. It is through these trials, through the heartache and pain, that they learn the true value of perseverance. I've lived for over 70 years, and throughout all those years I've witnessed countless lives, each one unique and filled with its challenges. But some stories stay with you forever, and one of those stories is about Bin, a woman from my neighborhood whose resilience in the face of adversity left a lasting impression on me. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment too below to let me know that you are still here with me. Bin's life was never easy. She lost her father when she was just a child, leaving her mother to shoulder the weight of raising her and her siblings. Her mother worked tirelessly, juggling multiple jobs to provide for their family. Life was hard, but Bin never once complained. She grew up quickly, learning the harsh realities of life. At a young age, she was forced to work to help make ends meet, often picking up scraps just to survive. There were many nights when she would return home soaked to the bone from the rain, but no matter how hard life was, she kept going. She didn't let the difficulties break her. Instead, she used them as fuel to keep moving forward. She got married, hoping that her life would improve, but unfortunately her husband proved to be lazy and irresponsible. His lack of effort only added to her burdens. As if life hadn't already been hard enough. Her husband abandoned her for another woman when she became too exhausted to keep up with the demands of her family. Left with 2 children and huge debts, she could have given up. She could have let the weight of it all crush her spirit, but she didn't. Bin continued to work tirelessly, raising her children on her own. People often asked her, "You've suffered so much. Why don't you find another man to lean on?" But Bin, with her unwavering strength, simply replied, "Once was enough. I don't need another man." A woman doesn't need a husband to stand on her own. I've watched Bin grow older over the years, and today her children are successful, living stable, fulfilling lives. I once asked her if she regretted her past choices and if she wished she had made different decisions along the way. She looked at me, a calmness in her eyes, and shook her head. "If I had to do it again," she said, "I'd still choose this path, because at least I never gave up on myself." Hearing Bin's story made me reflect deeply on the lives of other women like her. Women who, despite suffering, never complained. Women who faced every storm life threw at them with resilience and grace. Life is full of storms, of course. Some people have sturdy homes that can weather the winds and rains, while others must fight alone, with nothing but their will to survive. But no matter how difficult life gets, as long as we refuse to give up, we will eventually see the sun rise again. If you find yourself facing hardships today, don't let despair take root in your heart. Remember Bin's story. Know that one day your efforts will be rewarded, and even in the darkest of moments, your strength will carry you through. What do you think of this story? Have you ever lived through difficult times like Bin? If so, share your story with others. Your words may be the encouragement someone else needs to keep moving forward. Life isn't the same for everyone. Some are born into ease, while others have to fight from the very beginning. But what truly matters is how we choose to face life's challenges. If you find yourself in one of those difficult situations, don't let it break you. Don't be discouraged by the hardships. The story of Bin teaches us that with perseverance, we can change our fate. As long as you keep your heart kind and your trust in yourself strong, happiness will find its way to you. As we come to the end of today's story, I want to ask you, what have you learned so far? Life is full of challenges, but it's how we face them that truly defines us. The stories of women like Lu, Lien, and Bin remind us that while hardship may come, perseverance, self-love, and finding balance are key to living a life of strength and happiness. I encourage you to reflect on the lessons shared today. What is one thing you've learned that you plan to bring into your own life? Is it the importance of taking care of yourself while giving to others? Or perhaps the realization that your strength alone can guide you through difficult times? Whatever it is, I'd love to hear it. Please share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave your comment below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more empowering stories and valuable lessons. Your support helps us continue to bring you content that matters. Stay strong, stay inspired, and remember, happiness begins with you.